Your barware has an exclamation point, and in my brain it went, beware!
Warning,
And I
warning.
got a
Oh,
new case of my elderflower tonic. Blah, blah, blah.
yeah. Oh. Where did I put my speed opener? Oh, is it still in?
I still have not mailed your cherries. I've got so many packages for people I am working on mailing.
So, actually, I don't think I've used the speed opener in my new bar because I haven't had to, and I forget about how many like little spray droplets and messes, small messes I make throughout the night bartending.
Yep.
And so that new keyboard I was just talking about, I'm like, there's a bunch of droplets. Quick, wipe it
Oh
off, wipe it off,
no!
wipe it off. This is not sugar-free tonic. It's gonna be sticky.
Yeah, when we talk about wine, I will have to break out my wine sippy cup
Oh no.
that I have. Well, I have a bunch now because I have some for camping and things, metal ones. But the one I've got that I got at a paint and sip, it's like got a wine glass inside the insulated cup thing, and then a sippy top. It's like a travel mug, but for wine.
Yeah.
But it's sealed, so you can see the outline of the wine.
Oh, that's cool.
Shape.
I have a steel one that's like that. It's like like a Yeti cup, but for wine.
Yeah,
They're shaped like a wine glass.
I got a bunch of those for camping. Stemless ones.
Yeah.
Obviously. But, yeah, that one I got years ago, and it saved a lot of keyboards, I will say.
Ooh. So I was going to say, I don't have music yet. And actually, I don't even know, since we're doing recording and not broadcasting, I don't know. I assume I could actually I could pipe in an audio source. And let me just audio file. Yeah. So I could pipe in an audio source once we have intro music. The musician that I asked to compose actually just released his most recent album, so I didn't realize he was like in the middle of doing a thing when I asked him. So I don't have music for today. We could hum a few bars, we could sing a sea shanty, or we can just get into it.
No.
No, okay.
Do we want bed tracks? Like
What? Where were you going to bed?
come on.
Huh.
I know you're not new.
Huh. For the show? You think?
Yeah.
I didn't. I honestly I didn't think about it. I
didn't think about it at all until ANTP, and then I started thinking about it, and there are so many shows I listened to that I didn't even really realize they had one.
Interesting.
Like TMS uses one, and you wouldn't notice it was there until it's gone, and it just.
Can you tell what the level it's at is? Am I saying that right?
I could find out, but I mean that's going to be individual depending on how you have us mixed. It's something we can worry about later.
Yeah.
You do the show, and then have it where you want it, and then throw a bed track in and turn it way down and see how it feels, and make the call.
Oh wow! Yeah, I do have a mixer.
Or
in
we
here.
do like one last drink and put bar noises in the background, but I don't think we want that all the time.
Yeah, this does have a little mixer in it, so I can mess with that later on. I do have a license for an audio library that I got, like it's like a lifetime license I got 10 years ago because I was like, I'm gonna do audio forever, and so far relatively accurate. And it's just like generic music now that you can do anything from like rock anthems to like Yanni-esque new age piano. So and you can get it in all the stems. So if you even just hear like a bed that we like from one of those, we could throw it in our.
Or
our stuff.
like we could use something ambient like
Yeah.
there's a party going on in the background that we're hosting.
Yeah. Oh, you mean like actual like bar ambience?
Maybe.
I actually might have some that I've recorded too.
Yeah.
Oops, I just hit a button. Okay, well we're still recording, so we're good.
Okay.
All right, so we want to just kind of. So I assume we're going to do like standard intro, like, "Hey, welcome to Tipple Theory." This week
Yeah.
we're talking about the basic hardware you should have in your bar,
So it looks like the notes, yeah.
and then it'll just be like, do 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 do. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know where you want to put the music, but whatever you want to do. There's different ways to do
We're
it.
talk about that. I mean,
Depends if it has lyrics or not, really. Do we want to have somebody else record an intro, or, there's a lot of ways to do stuff. But
yeah, I mean, I figured we would do like our basic. This is, hey, welcome to the Tipple Theory. This is the show. This is what this episode's about. Intro music, and then let's get into it. Blah blah blah. I'm so and so. You're so and so.
okay.
That kind of thing.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Just we're ready to start. This is where it'll cut in like officially to be like, if you tune into the pod stream, to the RS.
What fancy interwebs things.
I still don't know what half those acronyms are anymore. I knew for like a minute until I was like, I don't need to know what those are. I just need to know what button to click.
Okay, I'm ready.
Is that IBIT?
Yeah. I have an Ibit on a stick.
I've seen those at the Ren Fair. Yeah.
What?
I'm not saying which
Does he
Ren
know?
Fair.
Is he licensed?
Oh, was that SCA? I can never remember. Delicious. No, I'm nervous. All right. What is this?
It's literally only me.
It's only you. What?
Here.
What do you mean? Wait, so you can only see you on
You're
the?
nervous about screaming.
Uh-oh.
You said you were nervous.
What?
Oh, see, it's not.
All right, now my daughter's calling me. Yes, Bren?
Water really wants you.
I appreciate that, but I'm in the middle of something.
If you get in the bathroom because you think you can come through the door.
Well, that door is blocked off the soundproofing. Well, not good enough soundproofing. Sound deflection now, so she can't get through that door anyway. I'll come out and get her later, okay? Okay, thank you. My daughter, everyone, and my cat. my
It's your cat terrorizing your daughter.
my cat does not like it when she can't see me. She kind of freaks out a little bit. But she also is terribly underfoot. She basically always has to tries to be touching me or within arm's length. So, yeah. So I did not put a description of the show in here, so I'm just gonna paraphrase it from memory.
Oh.
Yeah, I didn't think about that till just now.
Well, I mean, I should go to our Patreon.
You're gonna go to Patreon? Real quick, or?
Why wouldn't I?
I don't know. Well, I guess we're doing... Wait, is that part of the show? I'm confused.
No, I'm looking at the description to see how close you get and critique you. No, it's too long, what we have as the description there.
So, ad-lib?
Yeah.
Alright.
You could basically just use the first line. Tipple theory is the exploration of the history and practice of creating alcohol around the world.
Oh, did I write that?
Yep.
Fucking A. Must have.
Oh, you wrote this whole thing. This show will share some of the history of how your favorite beverages came to be, as well as techniques professional bartenders use to elevate your poison of choice into an experience worth savoring. The schmooze level is high. That's great.
That's I can only do that when asked. I can't motivate myself to do silly things like that. But I love it. You know, why won't you just take me to the thing?
What do you need?
Just the words in front of
Let
me.
me help you.
I just wanted to get the words in front of me.
Here, I'll put it right up
I
here.
literally copy and pasted
It's
it.
at the top of the notes. There.
Yay! All right. So I'm going to read the first sentence. And
maybe the last one. I don't think we need the. Well, I mean, you can. We're just trying to keep things short. But
Right. So you know what? I'm just going to delete that middle sentence then. There.
I mean, I really like it, but do we need it here?
All right. So actually, yeah. Tell you what, I'm going to read. I'll read that first part. Then I'll just go into the introduction.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually have us introducing
So
us
this
twice.
is going to be an exploration.
Did I spell savoring? I did. Cool.
Well, both are technically correct.
Oh, okay. Well, good.
But
I like that I
I
was.
noticed you used favorite the other way, and then savoring one way, and for consistency, we should add the use. I prefer them.
Sure.
Your computer probably did that to you.
That's true. Yeah, we're kind of copied it several places now, so it probably bounced from one format, one program to another. Okay. Hello and welcome to Tipple Theory. Tipple Theory is an exploration of the history and practice of creating alcohol around the world. On this show, we will share some of the history of how your favorite beverages came to be, as well as techniques professional bartenders use to elevate your poison of choice into an experience worth savoring. My name is Sean.
And I'm September.
Yay! And we're going to be your hosts for this and hopefully many, many episodes to come. On this episode, we're going to be talking about the basic tools and hardware you should have behind your bar before you start making cocktails, whether you're at home or a professional or somewhere in between. Before we get started, please visit patreon.com/Tipple Theory to find other episodes once we record them and ways to support us.
It's just a slash.
Is it just a slash? Well, it
is
was.
just a slash. It was in there wrong.
It was typed incorrectly. You know, if you go to Patreon and you combine that with Tipple Theory, you'll find it. I mean,
You'll get it.
Google knows what you meant. Bing might not. So before we dig into it, since this is our very first episode, and we kind of want to have a little space just to briefly get to know us, and maybe what we've been up to recently. And I like, September, we made notes, and I'm seeing your notes, September. I want you to go first anyway. I like your update.
Yeah, I did some really cool stuff. I went on a TTRPG cruise, D3 at sea. And so that was fun. I got to play D&D in Bermuda in a church ruin.
Sacrilegious.
Hence my cool mouse pad from a unfinished church. Ooh, spooky. It was also Halloween time. I saw a great burlesque show this past weekend at a neat place that's it's like an indoor golf course and cocktail bar, and they had burlesque, and I was in my happy place. So I had some good cocktails there. I had a great time at the Ren Fest a couple weekends ago. I had the best time. I went by myself. I have to worry about nobody and just run around, do what I wanted. It made it so much better. Anyway, and today I made eggnog fudge for my D&D group because we play on Wednesdays. And I made a bourbon chocolate pecan pie as an experiment. I make chocolate pecan pies at Thanksgiving and Christmas every year, and I sell some because people really like them. But I decided to do an experiment and add some bourbon. And tomorrow I'll know how that worked, and maybe add spiced rum next time. So what have you been up to?
Oh man, now I feel like I haven't been doing anything. Well, I've been slowly planning for this show, which has been interesting because it's the first one I know I've done in a little while, and one of the more prolific things I did was working with you like 2 years ago at this point, almost.
Oh no!
In between, I've been doing a lot of TikToks and just talking about bartending knowledge because that's kind of one of my favorite things is still talking about cocktails and how drinks come to be and how you can combine them to make other fun things. and getting ready for the holidays, because all that's coming up, and I finally decided I'm not going to do a full turkey this year. I'm going to smoke some turkey breasts and then make a bunch of wings because it's still a bird.
Yes, it is.
And I got my.
I will be getting marked down, chopped up turkeys after Thanksgiving and smoking like a mad woman. Then, and you know what else we did? Both of us.
What did we do? Wait, what?
We did that cool takeover.
Oh, duh! I got sick right after, so that was really, really tough. But yeah, no. So I usually speak at Dragon Con, and they invited us to do a takeover of their Twitch stream, and their Twitch stream. So yeah, so we got to just goof around for like an hour and a half, talking about podcasting and drinks and what we do, and just our little joys. And it was from this spot. This is the first time I'd set up this camera in a while. Although this is a podcast that we're doing, we're also recording the video, and I have this whole setup. I've got like 3-point lights and everything. I forgot to turn on my backlight. Hold on. There we go.
Oh, you're so fancy.
Right. A backlit bar.
Here's Fancy's our logo. Oh wait,
right.
My camera's reversed.
And mine's partially obscured, so I actually can't see. I have the notes up because I was more worried about forgetting what I was doing. Well, yeah. So I mean, So I left bartending about a year and a half ago, like right after the season 4 was over for America's Next Top Podcaster. But I've taken most of my stuff with me, so I'm standing in front of a bar. I've got my bar behind me. I actually bought this fridge for my bar. I have a what is that? It's about a 5-foot fridge behind me, fridge freezer, because I need to keep all my not my cordials, well, sometimes, but all my Amaros and my vermouths and things fresh. And my syrups.
Fresh. You're the fresh maker.
Right. I shall call this fridge Mentos.
Yeah, I'll be running my simple syrup back downstairs to my fridge when we're done because I don't want to waste it. I love it.
So
I'm not in a fancy space. I am at the landing at the top of my stairs, which has been my studio for the last several years since the pandemic, because then the room I was using as a studio and we were using for music became a music streaming studio for local musicians who all lost their gigs. And then my husband started working 100% from home, so he needed an office, and my kids won't move out. So I'm at the landing at the top of the stairs next to the bathroom.
I will say, before we dig into the thing, the show that we're doing, speaking of kids that won't move out, I was at my high school reunion this last weekend because I've never gone to it, and because of COVID, they said, hey, we're going to do 4 class years all at the same time. So it was like going back to sophomore year, which I mean, I didn't expect great things, except
I'm only going if mine's a senior class, right? Is that...
Well, so it was neat because I was like, well, what has this giant group of people done? Because our classes were about 850, 900 per class.
Wow.
It was a large high school, and my theater teacher was there, Mr. Carter, and he looked like his skin has no wrinkles. I don't know. He's retired. He just went basically from having brown to shock white hair. And I was like, Mr. Carter, how's it going? He's like, well, I'm retired. My kids still live at home though. I mean, it's less kids than you had to deal with at school, right? He said, yeah, and they're mine.
Yeah.
And it was wonderful, though. It was like, that was probably, besides seeing an old friend of mine that I was in theater classes with, who I convinced her to go out with me. Not in high school, just to the reunion.
I feel like there's a story there, but that's not what we're here for.
No, but hi, Marlo. If you ever listen to this, what's up? Tell your family I said hi. So without further ado, then let's talk about barware tools you should have when you're setting up a home bar. The important things to have. Do you want to go like back and forth on this one, introducing each one?
Yeah, and for future notice, we probably want to mention it before we do. Did you say like we're going to talk about what we
Like
Are
the
gonna-
topic for this
alright.
week. That's
Yeah.
how I started out. Well, so I read the description,
Okay.
and it said the topic for this week and our first episode.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. No. I remember
My
that from the
brain
feedback in season in the
Glitched.
ANTP.
See, we learned stuff. We
did. All right, everybody.
So smart. But okay, yeah. So, how about I ask you?
Sure.
Because you're the professional. Like I'm the at-home person.
Mhm.
I feel like I've done pretty well collecting things as I have taught myself over the years. What are the basic tools? And we made this list together, so I'm gonna take a little credit.
Yeah.
That anyone who wants to do entertaining at home, what should they have?
So, and this is a subjective list, and I'm also going to preface this with.
Well, I mean, if we explain what they're for,
Mhm.
people can decide what they need first.
Yes.
Based on what they plan to make
Right.
and try to make.
So I think if you're at home, and I'll look at this list, and it's not all inclusive. And as I was saying, like I might look around me and go, "Oh yeah, you should probably have that too." But you should have like an all-in-one shaker. That being said, like I'm going to hold one up, but the one that has like kind of just a little lid for it and a built-in strainer, a little cap. These are great if you don't have to make a ton of cocktails. If you're just making one, this is fine, cheap, easy, usually dishwasher safe. They're not my favorite because when they get cold, they can be hard to get the lid off. But they're fairly functional. They're easier to use because you don't have to like try to balance the strainer on top and hook it with your finger. I'm saying that like it's hard. It's not that hard, but overall, it's just simpler to use. I'm not.
So
not,
the
not
one
mad
you
about it.
have,
Yeah.
I notice it's all metal,
Yes.
and I that can definitely the temperature change. So this one I have here, and these are the ones that like people should go to the Patreon and watch the video because there are some video elements here that are relevant. But if you're listening at home, it's kind of this rocket ship shape, and mine is glass.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got these drink recipes, which for a beginner can be super handy. This is like your basic cocktails. Tequila sunrise. I mean, there's a chocolate martini. That's not real basic. A kamikaze, which is just hilarious to me. But Long Island Cosmopolitan, a mojito. So a couple of basic things. You can find different ones that have even more like just simple stuff that you might shake or even mix. I've seen ones that have Bloody Mary simple recipe on them, and then it's got kind of a gasket on it on the lid, so it will seal and you'll be less scared about leakage. And this was the first kind I bought, and I do like.
Yeah, I'm not mad about glass bottom shakers either. I have one from the 50s, because of course I do. But that kind of style I think is a good starter at home.
Yeah, because they have ounces on them, if nothing else. Like
Right.
the ounces are marked on the side, so you don't have to, I don't know, dirty your jiggers.
My only problem with those, though, depending on the cocktail you're making, normally you want to have ice in your shaker when you're building everything, and you can't really measure with ice to the measuring lines that are in there. So you have to like build your cocktail, pour it out, put the ice in, put the liquor back on top, then shake it. If you were to worry about it that way, that is only, and that's always been my issue with that specific feature on those. Still good to have. It's not like you couldn't also just use a jigger at the same time and be like, oh, okay, yeah, no, that's...
Yeah.
So, but just a note, because dork.
Because if you tried to do that, it would fail.
Yes. You would,
So.
yeah, no, yeah, that would go so hot. It would be very weak. But yeah, so that was the first item. A muddler. That actually isn't that's a maybe that's not a beginner thing, but I think everyone should have a muddler. Especially if you're gonna make old fashions. I have one here on the end of a spoon, so it's actually like a weighted muddler end on a spoon.
Ooh, fancy.
This is like an apothecary spoon, but I love it. But I didn't clean it that well. Dang it! It's got some schmutz
I
in the
got
end.
a new one recently. It's just like the standard metal,
So
but it's got a texture on this hard plastic part to kind of give you a little grind.
So that, I was gonna say, like, if I were saying, hey, you should get a muddler and it's your first muddler, I would usually tell someone to get a smooth bottom one because they're easier to clean. The texture ones, they're useful, but anyone that using them should know, like, you're going to end up doing a bit of grinding almost because of that thing on the bottom.
Yeah.
So it could give you more chunks than you might.
I feel like this is double-ended.
Hot.
I would use this for some things. I would use this for other things.
I didn't know that's the kind of show we were going to have.
And I got a dishwasher. Hey, have you met me?
Yeah. We hang.
Alright.
So a muddler. I just held mine up with a long spoon or something to stir with. Just a basic stirring implement.
This is something that was not on our list, but I noticed my long spoon
Yes.
that I recently got it's double-ended and has like a get your olives out of the jar fork.
Yeah, it has a little gig on one side and a spoon shape on the other.
Yeah.
So a lot of them have that, which is why I was just saying like a stirry spoon, because I figured we would.
They don't all have it, and
That's
I
true.
would get this. In retrospect, I would always get that because.
Yeah, especially if you're starting out, anything that multitasks is usually pretty handy. Like that's what you want.
I don't like unitaskers.
Right? It's just us and Alton Brown. So long spoon, a hand juicer, little squeezy. Oh no, I moved mine. They kind of the little citrus juicer that kind of looks like an inverted pair of pliers. I have that exact one. Yeah. So like.
I love this. I have two.
I would say
one's a little bigger, one's a little smaller.
That one's
it's an Amusa.
That one's enameled metal, right?
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, get a metal one. Don't get a plastic one. Anyone out there that's listening? Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah.
That's just gonna break immediately.
Yeah.
But it's a hook.
Yeah.
Hooks on everything. Hooks on most things.
Yeah.
I also love.
Yeah, especially got two cups on the end that kind of that spoon into each other and presses your citrus, and just really, really simple to use.
Pro tip: put it so you're squishing it to inside out. Don't put your half of a lemon or lime in the same shape it is cut to.
And don't make it fit in the bowl because it'll just squeeze out the juice the opposite end.
It'll just and squirt all over at you and things. And no, you're putting it so the dome is up, like you're making another a fruit in there complete, and then it will push it inside out.
Yeah.
And you can zest first, but we could talk about that later.
Yes. And actually going along with that, I didn't even realize I put it in there. Is that like a simple mesh strainer, like a little hand strainer? I'll hold one up to the camera, obviously, if you're listening on a podcast. Yeah, see, we both have one. But so if you're juicing, you hold this right under your hand juicer when you're squeezing it. But also, depending on what kind of cocktail you're making, sometimes you need a strainer like this just to keep chunks out.
I was going to ask you about this. I got this for making tea.
Oh, yeah.
However, I feel like it might be really handy sometimes while making drinks or squeezing juice. Like if I was using a reamer instead of this kind of, if I didn't have this kind of juicer and I was using a reamer or a fork, which you can use, and I could toss this on top of the glass. And it's like a fine mesh sieve.
Yeah. Then that's basically just got two little, I want to say humps, but handles on it. Yeah, they're like little tiny handles. Just stick and let it sit on top of a glass. So so that's handy, especially if you're maybe a little less steady with whatever it is you're juicing, and you don't want to have to hold a strainer while you're squeezing. I can see that being totally handy. So it's not a tool, but I put in that we should have bitters. Angostura bitters specifically.
Oh, yeah. But it's a tool in a way.
Because
I don't know why it's in there.
Almost everyone has it. It's that little brown bottle with a white label that's oversized and a yellow cap.
Or a big one.
Yes. Oh, there you go. Of course I've got one. Especially once you start making like more crafty cocktails or things that are a little more eccentric, you'll go through more bitters than you think. So it's.
Did you ever cook with it?
I've never
You didn't cook with it.
cooked with bitters. You could.
I learned about it years ago, and like throw some in some when you're steaming some green beans, and it does a thing. So
Interesting.
yeah. This is a little bottle, but it's a different kind.
Oh yeah. Not Gutenberg.
There you go. Camera backward.
Underberg. That's what it was.
Underberg.
Not
I haven't tried it
Gutenberg.
Underberg.
Right.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah. Anytime I go travel, I usually pick up more bitters. If I see like ones that I don't have.
But anyway.
So yeah, a towel. You should always have a towel. Don't forget to bring a towel. Yeah, because you're going to make a mess at some point. So it's just handy to have a little par towel, tea towel. I had terrible allergies when we did our little takeover thing before. So this has been washed, just so anyone who's watching knows. Always wash your towel as well. A knife. You should have a knife. You're going to cut up fruit or things. If you can find a knife that has a little channel on it for doing twists, so much the better. I have like 17 right here. Oh, there's my channel knife. So anyone who happens to be watching, I have just like a little fruit knife, and it has this little channel right below the blade that you can pull along a lemon, grapefruit, orange, whatever, and make nice little twists with it.
Oh, neat.
Super duper handy, and that makes just channel knives. But again, having a unitasker.
Yeah, unitaskers. I've had several of those. I haven't liked the way most of them worked. And they're unitaskers. Like most ones I had, like they'd end up pulling up pith. And they get dull, and then they're garbage.
So, channel knife. Oh,
I take it to just liking a good sharp peeler, because also again many uses, and I can get a nice big fat ones and not get pith, and it's just easier. I love it. It's not a unitasker.
Well, and a peeler's a really good point too, because peelers, you usually have one just in your kitchen.
Yes.
So yeah,
you can make twists, which are fancy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Level drink stuff, without going to get anything new.
Yeah, no, and that's I should have prefaced that, but you brought it up, so it's that there's a lot of things that are already in your kitchen that you can use without having to go out necessarily and buy extra stuff to get started.
Oh yeah, you can use your pestle from your kitchen if you had a mortar and pestle.
Yeah,
you can use it as a muddler.
Yeah. I have.
I do it all the time.
I have two. I have a wooden one and a stone one, just for different uses.
Yeah, I have a stone one, a marble one, and a ceramic one. So.
Ceramic one. That's a good. Yeah, neat. Ooh, that's delicious. So you brought up jiggers before, and I think. Well, so do you have a favorite jigger? One that, like you would say, like, hey,
Nope.
if you only have one, because I brought several.
Of course you did. I have a new one because I recently got one,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's just your standard, whatever the hell it is on one side and the other, and I had to look it up because it's not marked.
Usually 3/4 and 1.5 ounces would be your
Yeah.
quote unquote standard.
And that looks like it's a standard. It said it was standard on the package, but I don't tend to be so careful that I'm all that worried about it. It's like it's a proportion thing to me. Like I've until I got this, used shot glasses.
Yeah, I mean, so a lot of shot glasses usually have a standard amount. I actually want to say it's 1.5 ounces. It's
1.5 ounces,
yeah.
I think.
But I would say, so I have this is what it's called. I'm not trying to be rude one way or the other, but an oriental jigger. So if you think of normal jiggers, this one's slightly taller and thinner, still double-sided. But I like these because most of them tend to come with graduated lines on them. So, like, fold to the rim on one side is 1, fold to the rim on the other side is 2 ounces, and then inside they'll have anything from 1/4 ounce all the way up to 1 ounce, and then was usually at least 1.5 ounces before hitting the 2 ounce mark. Yeah. So it's nice because it's basically it's a bar measuring cup.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is my favorite one to use. I think I put further down our little list of notes other ones, but since I know we've been talking for a bit, you know what? I didn't. Oh, no, I did. Okay, never mind. Wow.
Okay. So corkscrews.
Oh yes, corkscrews. So
Everyone should have corkscrews.
yes.
There are things I don't recommend. like those horrible, stupid. It's a screw with a cover.
Yes,
and then
yes.
you have to stick it through, and then try to. Those suckers
Yeah.
are a nightmare. And whenever you forget to take one somewhere when you're traveling, you end up with one of those, and you have to have a tug of war, and it might break, and those are horrible. Those are the worst.
Agreed. They serve a purpose, which is generally last resort. But so I saw
Yeah.
you have rabbit ears, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
and I don't. I mean, for beginners, if you've never had anybody show you how to open a bottle of wine, you're going to be able to get away with one of these. And this one is really cool
It's a
because it's a bat.
That's pretty
It's
awesome.
a bat. Like, this was a great gift thing. If you're going to get one of these, make sure it's strong, because weak ones are just going to break really easy, and that at least has a bottle opener so it's not completely single use. And if it has fangs, bonus. But I liked these for a long time. When I was a kid, that was great. But then I learned how to use a proper
Waiter's corkscrew or wine key.
wine key, waiter's corkscrew. When I was taught, it was a captain's knife. When I learned to use it, and these are the best and like the quickest. You got a knife to cut off your foil, although these are great. They've got ones that have this. It looks like a cigar cutter that you can open up, close in the bottle, flip it around. It'll cut your foil nice and easy.
Yeah, the ones
I've
with,
come to really like these,
Mhm.
and the bonus to these is if this one is in your suitcase at the airport, they're gonna take it away.
The one with the knife on it. Yeah.
Yes, the one with the knife on it, but the one with this little open close thing with the cutter inside, they let me keep because I did leave it in the suitcase not long ago.
Yeah.
But this uses leverage, so it's also for any kind of if you get arthritic issues or your hand gets sore and everything else, and it's not as likely to tear out the cork because of the way it uses leverage to pull it out at an angle.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. So,
in my experience.
yeah. So all wine keys, are levered, and if you're, I couldn't tell if that one was, but
Which?
the red one that you're holding up that has the little
Uh-huh.
the foil circles, the cutter circles on them instead of the. Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of ones you can get nowadays. I'll hold mine up to my camera to also describe it. The portion that you rest against the side of the bottle to lever against will have a hinge in the middle.
This one does not. Neither of these do.
So that's something that, especially like a lot of waiters, like if you start serving, they'll get a double hinged corkscrew because it'll save your hands and your wrist over time because what a double hinge will do, it actually has two sets on it. So when your corkscrew or your worm, the corkscrew portion is all the way down, you can set it on the higher set, stop pulling, and then tip it out a little bit, reset it, and then pull again. And it lets you maximize your leverage the whole way through, and you kind of
there
save
you go.
yourself a little bit. So if you're out there
A
looking,
good way probably to measure too how far the worm needs to go in, which is
6 twists.
sometimes not easy to adjust. 6 twists.
Yes, 1, 2.
So
So
they calibrate it,
so it's
right?
3 times around, but you're going to turn your hand usually 6 times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another hint. I know we said we wouldn't get
Turn
too
the bottle,
deep into it.
whichever.
Yeah. So you always start sideways. So you take the point of the worm sideways towards the top of the cork, and then pivot up while you twist the first little bit to get it to plunge in the center, and that'll save you.
Oh, so much grief.
Yeah, going down the side of the cork.
Oh, so much grief.
Yeah, and
Yes.
there's other openers for more advanced or older bottles. We'll get into that some other show, some other time. But yeah, a good waiter's key,
Best one.
wine key.
Yeah.
Just little.
I don't know what this hole is for.
Where are we looking? Is it on the lever, or is that where I'm looking?
Yeah.
I think it's decorative. I don't see a lot that have holes on the levers for it.
Let's look at more.
Uh,
This one's from Bully Hill Vineyards. So
Let's see. Wait.
I had a cool one that looked like a shark that I can't find. But anyway.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
you brought
ice
up this one.
bucket.
I
Yeah,
agree.
ice
I just forgot to write it down. An ice bucket. Yeah. I have a tiny cooler that I keep. I also have a freezer behind me, but yeah, an ice bucket super duper handy to have. They're not just for hotel rooms.
No. No, they're outside. They're all over the place. Just make sure it's insulated, in my opinion.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, if you got a fancy glass one, they're usually super thick and for some kind of indoor party. But other ones, sometimes cheap ones, they're just a bucket. And if they don't have a second insulative layer, you may as well just use a bowl.
Yeah.
So,
Cutting board. If you're going to be cutting fruit and stuff, have a cutting board. I have one that I keep, my little bamboo one, just for cocktails. And actually, I have a backup bamboo one as well.
there you go.
Because-
I do recommend plastic or bamboo in particular, actually, instead of just some kind of wood, because bamboo is antibacterial.
Yes.
And plastic you can throw in the dishwasher or even bleach.
Right. And marble gets heavy.
Yes,
I have.
and breaks.
Well, yeah, I don't move mine. It stays in my kitchen and never goes anywhere. So we're on to like extras or nice to haves. So I wrote this one down, and so as we were talking about mixers before, and if you were just want to be more like me, I like a mixing tin and a glass. That's like my favorite combo for making cocktails. It's kind of just also what I like the standard workhorse behind a bar, because you can measure things a little bit easier sometimes with pint glass. You can see what you're doing. It's not obfuscated by the tin, but it's easier to separate. You bang them against stuff. Yeah, and also when you're shaking and your hands start to get really cold, the glass insulates a little bit better. And let everything shake into the tin. And yeah, it keeps your hands from getting all numb, which is nice.
Yeah, when I got this set of stuff, I got my first like actual to insert, and
Yeah.
it is big enough to use a pint glass with. I started using this
And that's
at the meetup.
and then that would be considered a Boston shaker setup, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah. When it's two tins that fit inside each other. Sorry.
And I like it because it can't, my kids just keep losing the little top to my other ones. So.
Yeah, I
And,
know what you mean.
and so we left off,
Uh,
and I think this is the right place for the other strainer.
so I put glass juicer. I meant Reaver. Oh yeah, the strain. Yeah.
We forgot to mention this when
So that would go with the tin.
the strainers. And,
Oh,
yeah, we forgot-
to me that's yes, you're right. I was thinking mesh strainer versus cocktail strainer. But yeah, your little basically your guy with you 2 to 4 feet and the weird spring on it. What are you holding up? Oh, some fuzz.
It had feathers in it.
Well, I don't know what you're straining, but oh, that's why that says mesh strainer on here and up there. I see what you mean.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Anyway.
other cocktail strainer, the one that goes with these shakers. You should have one of those too.
Right. If you don't have the shaker that has the strainer built in the top, and you don't want to deal with like how the hell you're gonna hold the strainer and the glass, these are really great one-handers that you just slap on the top.
I just saw a different shaker that I didn't hold up before.
Okay.
So I put infusing vessel, and that might sound weird. You can buy purpose-built shredder, mesh strainer, sealing vessels for like making infused vodka or whatever. But you can also just use a mason jar. And I say the first one because I've been gifted 2 of those separately at different times, and they're fine. They're not very large volume, so it's like, well, if I'm only drinking for one, which I'm usually not, but otherwise, like just the volume's not enough for me. Because I generally, even at home, I deal in volume. Like I have 40 friends over, I don't have 2. If I'm gonna do that.
I just use mason jars for all my infusing,
But yeah,
and then strain out whatever it is.
and anyone that gets more dedicated in cocktails, and we're kind of in the nice to have section of our breakdown, buy a pack of mason jars, because just get ready to use them. You can start making bitters, you can start making your own drinking vinegar, you can start doing your own infusions. So that's, and yeah, once you do one, you're going to want a bunch. Basically, it's
Yeah.
you're going to be going down a rabbit hole.
Oh my gosh, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Don't buy that tea vodka when you can throw tea in your vodka and have it so much better at home in a couple hours.
Yeah, sun tea vodka. Delicious. So I also put bar mats, and I actually have my bar Yeah, I can kind of hold up on camera. I have two, I want to say they're like 10 by 20 or 10 by 18 mats next to each other to cover my workspace here. But you're gonna spill, like I did, I think, before the show, and I was like, oh no, I just spilled on my keyboard. You're gonna make a mess, even if you're super careful. And if you're making a lot of drinks and you get really into things, you should have a nice rubber bar mat that you can take in the sink, spray off, clean, dry, and repeat. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if you agree with this one or not, but I put you should have like a small fridge just for your stuff. If you're starting to get into cocktails, like that, you can put your vermouth and your other things that could spoil into, just to keep them out of the way of like milk
And children.
And yes, right, those.
I mean, that's my mini fridge thing. I finally got one because I needed to hide something so it wouldn't get eaten. But we also kind of started collecting different beers and from people we know who were brewing them.
Right.
And from different places when we visit. And that wasn't to keep away from the kids, but it was like, okay, we want to keep these temperature controlled. And if it's not the kind of beer that we want to age, which we just have at a dark, cool place, we want to keep them in a fridge and not just take up the whole fridge with it. So that's mostly what my small fridge is for. Because I don't keep a lot of other bar things that are cold. Like, my elderflower tonic doesn't fit in my mini fridge anyway because I buy it by the liter. And my infusions fit nicely in the fridge door and can also be used for cooking.
Right.
Like my simples.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, and I like those. That's you can kind of hold up a squared apothecary bottle.
So
And
it's basically, you can get these super cheap Dollar Trees and stuff usually for oil and vinegar sets, they call them.
Yep.
And I've done infused oils and stuff, and I'll glass etch them or whatever, but I keep some around just for simple syrups, and they got a nice metal spout to pour. And for my, this has rosemary simple in it right now, that I'm using to make cocktails.
So I was going to say, my word of advice is usually held it up is like, get them, but replace the pour spout, because I don't know if I've ever gotten one of those where the spout was not leaky. They almost always seem to leak.
These are great. I've had them for years and years.
Oh, cool.
So.
Well, just double check them then, people, before you use them. Because I know I've had bag luck. My favorite for simple syrups and juices are squeezy bottles.
Squeezy bottles.
I love squeezy bottles. I use them for lemon, lime, simples. Yeah. I don't know. That's probably just because of the restaurants that I worked in. I'm just used to using these, but yeah.
Yeah, for your sour mix and stuff or whatever.
And they're less breakable when I go to events.
And you didn't care much when I mentioned before, we talked about when we were collaborating on the East Coast or West Coast meetup, East Coast meetup cocktails. These put them in your liquor bottle spouts, right?
What?
For pouring.
I like pour spouts.
Okay, because you were like, nah, you don't need those.
Oh, well, so that's why I don't think you need them for a basic setup. If you have a good jigger and you're just making for a couple people, or you're batching cocktails, which basically means you're pre-making most of your cocktail or all of it before you serve people. Sorry, not mansplaining you for general audience.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh no!
Don't apologize to me.
I'm a terrible
I'm here
person.
to learn too.
But so if you're not doing a bunch of cocktails all at the same time, speed pouring for a bunch of people, a jigger and a bottle is fine. But on the other hand, if you're just doing a lot of general pouring, speed pourers are great. That was going to bring that up.
These were, they came with that set of a whole bunch of tools I got. Yeah. And I was making one by one for 20-ish people. And even though I was measuring with the jiggers as I made each one, these made that pour for measuring so much easier than trying to do out of the bottle. That I was really glad I did take them with me, and I will use them whenever I have a big group I'm pouring for.
Yeah. No, that's yeah. I'm sorry if I said that. Maybe I was saying
It
you
was
don't
the
need
impression I got.
Okay,
I could have been mistaken.
I might have been implying, well, you probably don't need that. But so the next part of the list, that as I was making, hey, what you should have for a bar setup, as you become into higher volume or just more of a home lush, that was one of the things I was going to say you should totally have is speed pours. Because they're very handy, especially as you get really well practiced with the same kind. You can, a lot of bartenders do, count, and you'll know how much you're pouring to an insanely accurate.
Yeah, I
degree.
was trying that. Like after so many, I was like, oh, I should be just counting how much till that jigger's full, and then I can skip a step.
And I could do it. I could, based on how I could feel how the bubbles were coming through the pour. I wouldn't even have to count. I could just tell how fast it was pouring based on the vibrations as they were hitting my hand. So I could talk. I could be in a loud environment, doing something else.
Well, yeah, not all of us are going to get that muscle memory because no one's paying us to.
Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah, I was able to pay off a lot of credit card debt with bartending. So other things, nice to haves, as you get out there, a stirring vessel. That's one of those things. Like if you go to like a nice, sorry, I just threw a foam plane out of my stirring vessel because I have kid. You go to like this fancy underground bar, stimulant, and they're like, I'd like an old fashioned. They throw a giant piece of ice in a crystal vessel, and they start spinning it around at a weird velocity. That's a stirring vessel. And it's basically if you're not going to shake something, but you want to combine your ingredients, you have a stirring vessel. And this one is actually made out of an old Hennessy bottle. So because I wasn't gonna pay $60 for a piece of crystal, I was gonna make one myself and be like, yeah, you know what, Hennessy or whatever.
Fancy.
Oh yeah. So, how do you feel about blenders as a food drink implement?
Yeah, better get a good one if you're gonna be crushing ice.
Yeah.
Because it will kill most standard kitchen blenders nowadays.
Yes. Yeah. I think I put in our examples like get a Vitamix. They are $300 plus. But that's what you need to get a good mix. And really, you get if you go get a Kmart special. Kmart doesn't exist anymore. Target.
I think mine's a Cuisinart or a KitchenAid. It's some other it's got a good motor.
Yeah,
you know.
And that's it. Yeah, you can sometimes look up by the motor or by the shape of the vessel. The ones that tend to go down, taper down to the bottom, generally aren't going to crush ice very well.
Right.
You need something that's more squared. I actually have a Ninja blender. Right when they first came out, they were basically copying Vitamixes. And I found it on clearance at a Big Lots because it was open box. So I got it for $20 instead of $200.
Nice.
And I still have it. It's over 10 years old.
Yeah, my solutions, I actually just don't make those drinks, so.
And that's honestly, I worked at a place that was our solution too.
I'll go to a bar for
that
those.
annoying. But if you're gonna do it, that's how you want to do it. Right below that, all the bitters. I mentioned before that when I go places, I just collect bitters or I'll buy new ones that I haven't seen, and that's a really good way to just add a little flair to your drinks, and regional flair for that matter. If you can go to like a lot of craft fairs now, a lot of people locally will make bitters for cocktails and for herbal remedies. But
So that's how I got Underberg, even though it's from Germany. We were at a brewery in Asheville, and my husband saw it there, and he thought it must be regional, and got all excited and got it for me. But yeah, I've got a lot of bespoke bitters you can find online from very small companies. Very interesting things that you can add.
Mm-hmm.
Who knew? I've got like cranberry bitters.
Oh.
Ooh, put a little of that in a gin and tonic. I've got gingerbread ones. Put that in a chocolate martini. Yeah.
I mean, I've purchased like hot bitters, like habanero bitters.
Yeah,
we probably shouldn't go down
Dash
the
of
list,
magic.
but but at some point we'll do a bitters episode. How about that? You talk about all that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay, so I mentioned this before, like along with like cutting boards and like if you're doing a lot of prep, and this is a restaurant thing, far and away, is to have a bread knife. So bread knives are long. They're very widely serrated knives, and they're great for cutting citrus. So if you're doing a lot of like just lime wedges, wheels, whatever, you're not using like a little paring knife or a little bartender's knife. You're using a bread knife. It's just good. It's going to get the job done for you. if you work at a Japanese knife, one of those, not Japanese knife, Japanese restaurant, you could use like one of their large vegetable knives as well. Those are also pretty good. Do I have one down here? I do have one down here. Like one of these guys. Or actually,
Okay.
I keep all my bar knives down here. Or one of these guys. Which is so basically big, fat, wide blade knives that give you a lot of control. Because I have sliced through my finger before, using one of those small ones because you get like a little slip, whatever. A nice long knife with a lot of weight to it will keep you from losing digits when you're processing 60 pieces of fruit.
Yeah. A huge advantage to a bread knife too is you don't have to keep sharpening it and sharpening it in the process of doing that much prep because of the way it works.
Exactly. Yeah.
It won't start shredding your fruit partway through. It'll just keep going.
And honestly, if you're gonna do this, don't go to a nice knife store. Go to a kitchen supply store. Get one of their $15 plastic handle bread knives, and that'll last you years. You'll be pleased and surprised.
Those white handle suckers. The commercial food ones. My dad just sent me a couple of those knives.
They're great.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, they're better than like what you spend for $50 or like a whatever. I don't know. I don't go to nice stores anymore. I was about to say Ross. That's not a good store.
No.
No offense, Ross.
No, it's okay. I mean,
do I have okay?
But I got a TJ Maxx, right? Like my giant ice cube maker.
So I
was never going to buy this at Crate and Barrel for like $15. So
yeah. So you under bread knife. Oh, juice press. So you can get an automatic, like an auger or a reamer, which is what I've used at restaurants where you stick your hand into a wheel of death and it presses your juice for you. Yeah. But I also have behind me a just an old timey what do you call that? A cast iron metal long handled juice press where you can just throw half your orange or whatever in there, press, open, insert, press, open, release. Yeah.
I am never going to use the counter space for that when I have this.
And it's one of those things it cuts your time in half. It's handy enough that when you're doing, if I go to an event and look, I know I need 2 pints of lemon juice. I'm not going to say I have stood there with a little hand juice press. I worked at a resort that's all we had. No, this was worth $50.
Oh yeah, for that kind of use.
Yes, and I've had that for 8 or 9 years. So again, if you're getting to that level where you're just doing a high volume, or you want a nice piece to put out on your bar,
it's a cool piece.
Yeah, that is.
I would go buy some fresh pressed juice at Whole Foods or some shit before buying it and having to make the counter space.
That is also an option. We have also been in places where we just ran out of fruit and we're like, we need juice. And I'm like, all right, we're either going to this place or that place. We're going to buy some.
Yep. Sometimes you gotta.
A measured plunger. So we talked about jiggers. You can buy basically what is a plunger with ounces, milliliters, teaspoons, tablespoons on it. A lot of people use it for kitchen, for baking. But this is super duper handy if you're doing things like with agave nectar or honey, like a brown derby, where you have a highly viscous fluid that you need to get into your cocktail, and you don't want to be trying to use your spar spoon to scrape it out of a jigger. And now your jigger, you got to go wash that. There's little plastic plungers. They're maybe $5 or $7.
I've never seen little ones like that. I need one of those. Alton Brown, speaking of which, turned me on to those for kitchen stuff, but
that fell perfectly in my glass.
Little bitty ones like that.
Yeah. So that was, I always laughed because I bought one of those going oh, it's another jigger. And then I was watching one of his shows and he had a big fat one for, I don't know, putting molasses in something.
Shortening honey.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So you can buy little ones, super duper handy. And actually I worked someplace that we ended up taking my advice and actually buying 7 of those. The next one. You could also have a lighter, but
Torch.
Right, I was always like, I should put that by the microphone. No, that's where my face is. But if you're going to get into stuff, instead of having a lighter, I recommend spending your $20 or $30 and getting a nice butane torch, because that can let you not just do your little twists, what do you call it? Like burning the oils in your twists. If you're doing that over a fancy cocktail, you can also use it if you're gonna do a smoked cocktail. You have a little smoker, which I put under this. So it's a smoker. Those can be fun. You don't have to do it. You can also just buy nice wood chips, put them on a metal platter, light them on fire very quickly, and then put your old-fashioned glass over that, and then make your thing in the glass. But if you like the smoky
you can also
presentation,
stick a cinnamon stick in a hunk of pineapple and smoke that way.
I've said that to people to get rid of them before. Yeah.
There you go.
Um,
But yeah,
Yeah.
torch is also multi-use, right? Like,
yeah.
you can light your cocktail, you can light your bananas foster, you can make a creme brulee,
Yeah.
you can jumpstart your chips in your smoker. Like, torches are very useful. Stop talking yourself out of it like I did for way too many years. I love my torch.
Yeah. Read the reviews too. Make sure you don't get one that's you can spend the same price for one that's awful as well. So make sure you do a little bit of research. Oh hey, we talked about this. Fancy cube molds.
Yep.
You just got
Sorta.
some, right?
I just got some.
Yeah.
Finally. I have, funny, cute little molds, but I finally got some proper, makes a big giant sphere.
Yeah.
So I'm happy about that.
No, I definitely I recommend them for if you're gonna be doing.
Well, you said you were going to send me one because you had extra. And I
Oh shit!
saw
Sorry.
these in the store, yeah.
Oh, damn
And I
it.
was like, well, never mind. For $3.99,
I'm nuts.
I won't even nag them. I'll just buy these. So
That's all right. I think you got the ones that split like that. I think you got nicer ones than the ones I had. Because they can leak and stuff, and they get tricky. But yeah, for old fashions and things like that, yeah, that looks like it's beefier than the.
yeah, it's pretty nice.
Yeah, I like that.
It has will sit flat,
Handy tip.
and I like how it has a lot of room in the top and the fill.
Yeah,
Some of them that just end at the top. It's really hard to judge where you fill to, because it'll expand. Well, anyway.
yeah, that's it.
We don't need to go on all that, but having these big fat ice cubes, I wanted to ask you how you feel about the steel. Are they made of steel? Like the big metal, you freeze them, they don't melt at all? Have you seen these?
These are.
High-end cocktail bars have them. It'll be just like a big metal cube instead of an ice cube.
Oh yeah. I have some of those stones, like whiskey stones.
Yeah. that kind of
And
thing.
yeah, I think I've seen metal ones too. So yeah, so I have the rocks, literal rocks.
Little rocks, neat.
Now they
Well, geez, I could freeze a rock. I have lots of pretty rocks.
right. I don't know. There's something about these. They're nice and smooth. Maybe that's just it. I think they're soapstone.
Well, I think not porous would be important. Yeah.
Right. So there's an up and a downside. The upside is yes, they don't melt at all. They don't change the chemical composition of your drink, although depending on where you keep them in your freezer, they can take on some odor, so be careful. I always actually keep mine in the bag, at least for a little bit of buffer. But sometimes you do want a little dilution to be happening to your whiskey, especially if you're doing it with a whiskey. So you have to like whatever beverage it is as it is if you're going to use those things. But a lot of times those things, especially if you think of high-end whiskey, you're like, oh, I'm not going to dilute it, I'm going to put one of those steel cubes in it. Well, that high-end whiskey might be 60 or 70 proof and could probably benefit from some water. So you're going to have to ask them then, well, can you put some water in? It won't change, so luckily you can dilute it to taste. You're doing a lot of work. So
But a big fat ice cube
yeah.
doesn't have all that surface area, so it melts super fast, and you can enjoy it
Right.
slowly with less melting. Right?
Yes.
Gotcha. So
Did you put spritzer spray bottle or did I?
I did.
Oh, okay, nice. Well, then you explain it.
So, well, I mean, it's okay. We didn't really talk about the purpose of twist, but we talked about twist, and everybody knows and has heard of a twist. And one of the things you do is, properly when you put a twist in a drink, like a lot of times you'll actually twist it, and you get the oils, and they sit on the top of the drink, and they really give something to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just a garnish you stick on the side. And spritz bottles, just a little spritz of something. You can do the same thing with something like absinthe. That you don't want to mix into a cocktail because it's a very overpowering thing. But It's got like a lot of herbals in it. You could do it with something like Aperol. You could. There's a lot of things you could do that with, and just spritz the top of a drink and give it a little, just an add and a nose without having to mix it into the drink. It's a high end, fancy, impress your friends move.
Oh, for sure. I mean, yeah, it's having a little atomizer, a little spritzer.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, especially if you're going to be doing homemade stuff, like we were talking about before. If you're going to start homemaking bitters, you know, strain them really nicely, put them in a little atomizer. Like, that's totally legit. You know, because not everyone keeps, like me, like extra Dauber bottles behind their bar where you can, like, oh, I'm going to throw my... A Dauber bottle is what you normally see, sorry, with bitters. It has, like, a little restrainer on the top, so when you turn it over, 3 drops come out.
It's like on your Worcestershire sauce.
Yes.
Same kind of thing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But spray bottles, spritz. You can get a little bottle at a craft store in the Dollar Tree in the craft section, right? That's made for spraying whatever
Your
craft stuff, alcohol, on stuff,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then use it in your bar. It's a cheap, fancy ad. Also, a good way to do so you don't dip and make a mess if you're trying to rim something. So.
Sorry, so I had one extra section on there that I know we don't have time to go through, so we're gonna skip that. But there's a couple things I did forget that as people move up in their drinking experience and time, you should totally have. One of them is a champagne stopper. Basic champagne stoppers kind of look like this weird little theme park claw, with usually with a metal nipple on the inside. Most of the time they're spring loaded as well, so you can actually press that onto the top of your champagne bottle, and then the claws on the side grip just under the rim or the lip of the champagne bottle neck, and make a nice little pressurized seal to keep your champagne bottle fresh for at least another day versus running out of carbonation in a couple hours.
Just drink it.
Or you just drink it. I get headaches from champagne. And especially if I'm using it for like a topper on a
That's what
cocktail.
friends are for.
You know, but if you're doing a champagne float or prosecco float, or something else carbonated,
I
super duper
understand.
handy.
I held on to a bottle of champagne for like 3 months this summer because that's how long it took me to get friends to drink it with me. So
We mentioned ice buckets, and I think we forgot ice scoops. But get an ice scoop as well. Using a solo cup isn't always necessary. And I've been surprised because I didn't have scoops at home for a while, and then when I started doing like more events, or a lot of times when I go do conferences, I set up a bar in my room because that's how I socialize now. People will be like, "Oh wow, you have an ice scoop." Yeah, why is that impressive? But for some reason, it just adds a bit of class.
Because most people only make drinks in their house.
Yes.
And if you have to use a scoop for your own giant drinks, you might be overdoing it.
You might be an alcoholic. There was one other thing I saw, and I forgot what it was. And I suppose we can always end there. And I think we covered
because I think
most
we've
of the
gone
range of
past
things.
essentials.
Yes.
And a lot of nice to have, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of shows we're going to do where people are going to learn how to use some of this stuff.
Yes.
And if they'll ever need it. So, but what about history?
So
What about history? We've done almost an hour.
We have.
We didn't do any history, so.
So we haven't, and I think we might have to save that as a whole themed show and just do like, let's talk about bars in time. Space.
Okay.
Space. I mean, I want to, but yeah, we recorded a lot today, and it's our first episode.
Well, and I'm fine with that, but I think we should have pared down what was actually basic. I think our idea of basic is far beyond what anybody really needs to start.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, but you know what? I overplan sometimes. And I want to talk about, like, well, if you already know you're really into cocktails, well, let's go whole hog. You just spent a couple $100, $5,000. Build yourself a bar. Don't do that. Oh shit! Something just fell down. Oh, it was the knife. I'm glad I still have toes. You know the largest one I brought out? That's the one that fell down.
Of course it did.
Yeah. Cool.
We needed to show them all the knives. I hope you've learned your lesson without losing a toe.
So dangerous. It doesn't want to go back into its home. All right, well, yeah. Let's maybe we should stop before I lose toes. But yeah, it's just like, how about this? Just like we recommended different levels of, hey, you're just starting out, maybe you're a little getting into more cocktail stuff. Bars have also changed over time as to what's just in them, what's stocked there based on what's popular and what's just available. Because once ice became a thing, bars changed.
Holy moly.
And that was only, 130 years ago. So and people have been drinking a lot longer than that. So there's a lot that has shifted in time. And then like I did a disco thing for a while for a friend of mine that's like, oh, let's do disco cocktails. A lot of cream back then. Gross. White Russians, that's from the disco era.
I like White Russians.
I
I used to like White Russians, I should say.
I'm not mad at them, but oh my gosh, like that's, who wants to get drunk on several ounces of cream?
I mean, I didn't use heavy cream.
Who wants to
but
get
I
so
would make
drunk that they're seeing that cream
pictures
again?
of them at parties, and there is something to be said about getting drunk on a milkshake, because kind of where it's going.
That's yeah,
It's
fine.
party.
I've been in that crowd before. Like, you have boozy milkshakes, sign me up.
Yeah.
Damn it. I didn't do a featured cocktail today, partly because of planning and whatnot. I did skip over a couple bullets points there. But what were you drinking during the show today? What were you drinking? How about that?
So I don't recommend it. It's the Kraken Black Spice Rum and ginger beer in a can. I like Kraken Spice Rum.
Mm-hmm.
I like ginger beer. We discussed that on the Dragon Con Takeover show. So I figured this would be fine. We were having a campfire and people over. Cans, great for that. And it's not very good. Like, it's just not. The ginger beer doesn't have any bite. It tastes like it's a little over-sweetened. I don't know if they added more stuff because, they don't have to put those kind of details on these.
They add extra
Natural flavors and caramel color. Yeah. So it just was, they're pretty meh and a little too sweet for me. But I had this rosemary simple in the fridge, so after a sip, I added a bunch of this. Much better now.
Yes, that's why we.
Even though this is sugar, the rosemary totally does a thing, and kind of brings out the spices that were buried in whatever the hell else they put in this can. So.
Nice. I was drinking Aperol with non-alcoholic hop water, fuzzy water. Sometimes I don't drink. I don't like to drink every night of the week anymore. So I will enjoy a non-alcoholic hoppy seltzer, essentially. But then on other nights, I'll be like, oh, hey, let's just throw a little Amaro or a little cordial in there or something and just crank it up a little bit. And this was delicious. I was actually surprised. It worked very, very well together. Aperol's a little bit sweeter in general. So it really worked against the hoppiness. It was a good little refresher. I liked it.
Nice. I mean, I really was only drinking in the middle of the week because we were having a show, and I knew you were going to ask me what I was drinking. So, I want to get rid of these.
That's another thing I do besides bitters. All right, we're over for an hour. But anytime I'm like at a new place and I stop by a bar and or a liquor store and they have like their canned cocktails and I see one I haven't seen before, I'm like, all right, I just have to grab 3 or 4 of those.
Yeah, I feel like I'm going to have to try those. They have old fashions and stuff like that now, and I'm a little... I can't be offended unless I try it first.
Of all the ones you'll see, the old fashions tend to be better. When you get into stuff like, it's a Mai Tai, it's a whatever, it's just awful. Some of the old fashions have been okay. I'll put it that way. Like, they're not great. But of all the canned cocktails, they tend to come out the best. Probably because it's just so few ingredients and you pretty much have to do it right. Or somewhat right. Or Meridian, I think, is one of them that makes them, and they're the most decent. All right, are we ready to wrap?
Sure.
Right. Oh, the show. Sorry. I'll just set myself up for my own jokes. It's fine. First of all, if anyone has any comments or questions or thoughts on things we might have missed for today, feel free to email us at, actually, we're at tippletheory@gmail.com. We also have a website, tippletheory.com. It exists.
I would suggest going to patreon.com/tippletheory because you can message us there. You can see whatever videos and audio we post. You can take a look at our levels of support and get involved. Ask us questions. What do you want to hear about?
Booze.
Well, I mean, and not booze. History.
Right.
We're going to get there, I promise. It's the plan.
Mm. Well, yeah, booze and time, booze history, alcohol, mixing, anything in that genre, we're probably going to be talking about over the course of this show. And on our next episode, we'll be talking about one of the ancient spirits, vodka.
Vodka.
One of the primary cornerstones of any bar, and distillery, for that matter. And so please tune in for the next episode. Send us a message, because I'd like to hear from you too. And we'll see you next time.
Like, follow,
Subscribe.
review, wherever you're listening. And let us know where you're listening.
Cheers.